Nathan, 32, had spent nearly 7 years married to Ava, who was 33. Their relationship had always been quiet, steady, built on mutual respect and a shared understanding. From the very beginning, they had chosen not to have children, both of them content with a life centered around each other, their careers, and the peaceful comfort of routine. But lately, something had shifted in Ava. The change was subtle at first, a restlessness in her voice, a lingering silence in their conversations, the way her eyes sometimes drifted toward nothing as if she were somewhere else entirely. She began voicing dissatisfaction, speaking of how dull everything had become, how the monotony of their lives made her feel stuck and uninspired. One night, out of nowhere, she suggested the idea of having a child, not out of a renewed desire to build a family, but as a possible cure for her boredom. Nathan, surprised but open, told her they could talk about it. It was a significant shift from their earlier agreement, but he loved her and was willing to reconsider. Yet just as quickly as the idea appeared, Ava brushed it off, calling it a fleeting impulse. Nathan let it go, assuming it was just a phase, unaware that it was merely the beginning of something far more devastating. Then came the night that shattered the illusion of their calm, steady life. Without warning or pretense, Ava looked at him across the dinner table and told him she was going on a date. At first, he laughed, expecting her to smile back and reveal the joke, but she didn't. Her face remained composed, expressionless, terrifying in its seriousness. She said the man's name was Eric, a colleague from work. She claimed it was nothing more than a dinner, a way to inject some excitement into her life. Nathan sat in stunned silence, unable to wrap his mind around the casual cruelty in her words. When he asked why she called it a date if it was so innocent, she answered coldly, as if explaining a math equation. She wanted to be transparent, as if transparency somehow softened the betrayal. Ava kissed him on the forehead, an act so eerily detached it made Nathan's skin crawl, and walked off to get ready. He remained frozen on the couch, heart pounding, jaw clenched. From that position, he watched her glide across their bedroom, humming softly to herself as she slipped into her scarlet dress, the one she usually saved for anniversaries, romantic dinners, special nights meant for the two of them. Except tonight, she was dressing up for someone else. As she smiled into the mirror, fixing her lipstick, Nathan's world quietly fell apart. The woman reflected in the glass wasn't the Ava he had married. She didn't look back at him, didn't even seem to notice the way his eyes brimmed with disbelief. Desperate for clarity, Nathan called his best friend, Kevin. He couldn't bring himself to confess the full truth, so he framed it as someone else's dilemma, just a hypothetical. Kevin, trying to be supportive, suggested it might be harmless, but deep down, Nathan already knew this wasn't innocent. It wasn't a harmless dinner. This was betrayal, dressed up in perfume and red silk. Ava came home earlier than expected, around 9:30 p.m., her smile smug and unfitting, her lipstick slightly smeared. Her eyes looked dazed, almost gleeful. She embraced Nathan like nothing had happened and whispered, "It was so exciting, Nathan. Just what I needed." The words carved into him like glass. And then, as if the night hadn't done enough damage, she casually mentioned that she and Eric were planning a weekend trip together. Her tone didn't shift. Her eyes held no remorse. She floated above the wreckage of their marriage, completely oblivious to the destruction she was causing. That night, Nathan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His mind looped through every word, every moment. The woman sleeping beside him no longer resembled the one he had loved for so many years. The realization hit hard. His marriage was over. But if Ava thought she could simply walk away and escape the consequences of her choices, she was sorely mistaken. Nathan had been devoted for 7 long years, and now he would make sure she felt the weight of every lie, every betrayal. By Saturday afternoon, he had changed the locks on their home. Her key, once symbolic of their shared life, was now useless. He packed up all her belongings, placing them into black trash bags, and moved them neatly into the garage. That night, he watched silently as Ava buzzed with anticipation, humming while she packed for her trip with Eric. She didn't notice him. She didn't ask questions. She simply moved through their house like a woman already gone. Nathan, phone in hand, quietly recorded her cheerful monologue as she spoke about how alive she felt, giddy over her reckless freedom. He knew this footage would be valuable not just for legal purposes, but to protect himself from any lies she might spread later. The next morning, Eric's car pulled into the driveway. Ava, dressed in yet another red dress, blew Nathan a flirtatious kiss as she stepped out the door. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just watched, silently, as the door closed behind her. That moment, quiet and cold, was the final nail in their marriage. When Ava returned Sunday evening, she found herself locked out. She jiggled the knob, confused at first, then began banging on the door, calling his name. Nathan watched her through the security camera, her confused expression morphing into frustration, then panic. Eventually, he opened the door. Her tear-streaked face greeted him as she tried to step inside, but he blocked her. "It's over," he told her calmly. "You wanted excitement. Now you have it. But it's not here anymore." She begged. She wept. She tried to blame Eric, claiming he pressured her, that it wasn't what she thought it would be. But her words were hollow now. Nathan handed her the recording, her own voice gushing about how liberating it all felt. Her face drained of color as she realized she had been caught in her own arrogance. "You destroyed us, Ava," he said coldly. "And now you get to live with that." He pointed toward the garage where her belongings waited. She pleaded for another chance, but he slammed the door in her face. She sat in the driveway for hours, sobbing. But Nathan never opened the door again. The next day, divorce papers were sent to her parents' house, the only stable address she had left. In the days that followed, Nathan existed inside the quiet wreckage she'd left behind. The house, once filled with her presence, now echoed with silence. But at least it was his again. No more tension, no more games. Ava wanted adventure. Now she could have it, just not with him. She moved in with her childhood friend Julia, who likely didn't know the full extent of Ava's betrayal. Still, Ava couldn't accept reality. She bombarded Nathan with calls, voicemails, and texts, each more desperate than the last. Even her mother reached out once, pleading with him to reconsider. But Nathan had already made peace with the truth. There was no future between them, only wounds, and wounds needed space to heal. Every message from Ava reminded him of what she had done, the sound of her laughter while packing for Eric, the careless way she brushed off his pain, the blind confidence that he'd always be waiting. But Nathan was no longer that man, and Ava's betrayal had lit a fire inside him that burned away any remaining illusions. He wasn't shocked when she made her next move. One quiet afternoon, while he was working on reports at his office, a commotion outside drew his attention. He heard his secretary's voice, trying to calm someone. Then came Ava's, frantic, pleading. "Please, just let me speak to him," she cried. Nathan stepped into the hallway to find her standing there, disheveled, clutching the divorce papers. Her tear-streaked face was a shell of the confident woman he once knew. Embarrassed colleagues looked away as he escorted her into a private room. "What do you want, Ava?" he asked, voice sharp, steady. She held out the papers, her hands trembling. "I can't sign these," she whispered. "I love you. Please, let's talk. We can fix this." But he'd heard it all before. "We have nothing left to talk about," he replied. "You made your choice. Now live with it." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she confessed her regret. She called it a mistake. She admitted that the fantasy had turned into a nightmare, that she missed him, that he was the only one who ever truly loved her. Nathan felt the anger rise inside him, but he forced himself to remain calm. "You played with fire," he said, stepping away from her touch. "Now burn." He left the room without another word, ignoring her cries behind him. For a while, the call stopped. Word reached him that Ava had started therapy, perhaps for the first time. She was confronting her own reflection. But for Nathan, that wasn't enough. He needed more than silence, he needed closure. So he spent days putting together a meticulous record of her affair, emails, screenshots, timestamps. He printed it all out, bound it, and sent it to her parents' house. The next morning, she called again. He didn't answer, but he listened to the voicemail later. Her voice was shaking. "I got your package. I understand now, Nathan. I really do. I see what I did to you. I know I can't undo it. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand." And in that moment, something shifted. She wasn't blaming anyone. She wasn't begging. She was finally owning her choices. And that, more than any apology, was what Nathan needed to hear. A few weeks later, the divorce was finalized without drama. Ava signed the papers and moved back in with her parents. Nathan stayed in the house, now is alone with her name, erased from every corner. At first, the silence was unsettling, but slowly it became peaceful. He began to rebuild. He hit the gym again, started hiking trails he used to love, picked up painting, a hobby he hadn't touched in years. And Kevin, always by his side, made sure he never lost sight of how far he'd come. Ava sent one last letter, handwritten, full of sorrow. She apologized once more, told him she was working on herself, but Nathan never replied. She had her path, and he had his. They no longer walked together. Time passed, seasons changed, and with them, so did Nathan. One crisp autumn afternoon, while hiking with Kevin, he met a group of fellow hikers. Among them was Emily. She was warm, grounded, with an easy smile that somehow made him feel lighter. They talked as they walked, and afterward, he asked if she'd like to grab a coffee. It wasn't fireworks or fate, but it was honest, real, safe. With Emily, love didn't feel like something he had to chase. It felt like something he could trust, whether Emily becomes his forever or not. Nathan knows this. He is no longer the man shattered by betrayal. He is stronger, wiser, whole. And Ava, she made her choice and paid the price.